Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, Moore County is coming back a little bit.
Yeah, it's slowly but surely, yes.
And people are really respecting the mask rule and social distancing. And I always remember when I first moved here back in 1999, and even the 15, 20 years prior to that when I used to come to visit. So I'd go out to eat, and I had a choice of maybe 3 or 4 restaurants in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, I remember that.
You could get steak here. I mean, the choices were not so great.
No, unless it was fast food.
Yeah, and this year we've had the privilege to highlight a lot of retail and restaurant establishments during COVID.
Yep.
Because those 2 businesses are actually more challenged than so many others that have not had any setbacks. But there are so many good choices of different types of food. People who move here, they used to ask me many years ago, they'd say, so how's the food? How are the restaurants in Moore County?
That was a hard question to answer back in the late 80s, early 90s.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you like pizza and steak and, grits and eggs and this and that. Today, foodies can come here with full confidence and know that they have some wonderful choices.
Oh, yeah. Lots of choices.
So the other day, I was at dinner at Scott's Table in Southern Pines with Elizabeth Lacey and her husband, Bob Cameron, who are from Pittsburgh. They're both attorneys. And they said, we're going to go there, and they described on the phone one of the soups. I want to say it was a Hungarian goulash. Is that
mushroom?
Hungarian mushroom. And Elizabeth talked about this soup as if it were a piece of art, and that I should go to the museum and see it. Anyway, I have been to Scott's Table. It's on Southeast Broad Street in Southern Pines, and was just there the other day for lunch. The food is exquisite. Scott's Table kind of runs under the radar a little bit, and I don't know if that's by design, but you talk about a secret. You talk about great food, and we're privileged today to be speaking with Karen Margolis, who is going to tell us the story about Scott's Table. And you remember the TV show Cheers?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I do.
If you go into Scott's Table and you sit down, there's a feeling there. I mean, the waitstaff loves to talk shop. They like to talk about the food, how it's prepared, and I hear these conversations going on with different people, and ooh and ah, and then there's conversation from table to table. Karen, you've created an eating experience, not just a restaurant.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Tell me, this is a family business.
Yes.
For people who are moving here or who might not be familiar with Scott's Table, tell me the story, because your location has been the site of, I remember when Vito's used to be there back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I remember coming down to visit and going there, and that's where Vito's was. And it's had a couple of different restaurants. How did this all come about?
Well, to be honest with you, it goes way back to before Scott and I met. Scott has always had a passion for food.
Scott is your husband.
Scott is my husband.
Okay.
He has been working in the restaurant industry since he was 15. Cooking in his home since he could stand at the stove and look over it.
A mother's dream.
Yes. And when we met, he was attempting to find what you would call a normal career outside of the restaurant industry, going to school, and just wasn't satisfied with what he was learning and what he was doing, but he always maintain that passion for food. And when we got married, I encouraged him to go to culinary school, and he
Right.
went to the Culinary Institute of America.
Oh.
He always talked about opening his own restaurant, but being a responsible husband, he thought it would be more important to have a steady income. So he kind of worked his way into the university system and healthcare systems because it could create a more stable home environment
Right.
for us to have a family.
Right.
But still talking about someday I'm going to get my own restaurant. And we finally said, if we don't do this now,
Right. Right.
we're never going to do it because we were getting older. Our kids were getting older. They weren't really requiring us to be so much about them. And so about 4 years ago, he left his job and started making plans for the restaurant. And I got a little jealous because I was still working. And,
And what were you doing?
I was an operating partner for another restaurant concept.
Oh.
Because of Scott, I got into the restaurant business.
Okay.
And so I got a little jealous about the possibilities that he was coming up with. And so I quit my job. And then it was, we have to make it work. And we were looking for locations. And
Yep.
as you know,
Yep.
in Moore County, retail space goes quickly
Oh, yeah.
if it's the right space.
Right.
So we missed out on a couple of opportunities and almost missed out on the location that we're at. We were actually the second group looking at that facility at the time it was available.
For those people who are listening, they might remember the restaurant that was there prior to you,
Right.
which was
It's Four Seasons on Broad.
Four Seasons on Broad. That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had vacated, and so the building had been empty for about 8 months. And
Right.
Scott talked to the landlord, Dave Harbor, and he said he had somebody else that was interested in. We had to wait until they either said yes or no. Luckily for us, it didn't work out for them, and we
Okay.
were able to sign a lease. And 6 months later, we were able to open. And my responsibility is everything out front. His responsibility, of course, is everything in the kitchen because he's so talented. And I mean, the things that he creates just amazes me every time. And I am much more comfortable out front. So that's where my focus is.
In your on your website, you talk about Scott had a couple of rare opportunities. He did a demonstration with Julia Child.
Yes, he did. When he was in culinary school, he got to be her assistant.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And he worked in Atlantic City?
Correct. During an internship, he worked at the Sands Hotel and Casino.
He cooked for people like Cher,
Yes.
Frank Sinatra,
Mhm.
Steve Martin, Meryl Streep,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Newman. I don't know Chef Paul Bocuse.
Oh, yeah, he's very famous.
See, okay, so
Yeah,
you have to
he-
help me, okay? And George Dubois.
Yes,
Did
he's
I pronounce
also
that correctly?
yes, he's also another.
Dorothy, are you
Culinarian.
impressed that I was able to pronounce that French name
Yes.
properly the first time?
Yes, I'm very impressed.
I'm very impressed too. So he got his. He learned from the ground up, and he had some great opportunities early on.
Yes, he did.
So your husband must be very passionate because when you own your own restaurant business, even in the best of economic times, a restaurant is not a slam dunk.
No.
And you've got to always be recreating and newness and freshness. And one season to the next, the barometer can swing wildly.
Yes, it can.
And now you're doing this during a pandemic with limitations on what you can do. Interestingly enough, the other day I had a lunch set up with a friend of mine and a client, and we called and we made a reservation for 3.
Mm-hmm.
The day of the lunch, which was just a couple of days ago, my friend contacted me and said, "Do they have outside seating?" she did not want to go into any restaurant because
Right.
of COVID, which is completely understandable. So I called and I asked, "Do you do outdoor seating?" And the answer was no, we do not. So we wound up lunch for 3 became a lunch for 2, but so we have 1 convert rather than 2. But I mean, have people been reaching out to you about that as well, outdoor dining? Because I mean, that's great until the weather turns
Right.
south.
We have had some people question whether or not we had it, and we don't have the ability to do that right now because of the investment that it would be.
Yeah.
But we've made amazing changes to the restaurant itself by removing half of our tables.
Right.
You really are not going to be cramped next to anybody in the restaurant.
I
We're
agree.
taking extra precautions when we clean and sanitize tables.
Right.
I mean, for once a guest gets up from a table, we can't even consider seating it for at least 10 minutes because of our process that we've created to clean and sanitize the table.
Right.
So I feel like while we don't have the outdoor dining, our inside dining is as safe as it can possibly be.
And the spacing is great, and you can hear yourself talk. You can easily have a conversation. You're not having sounds ricochet off the walls or this or that. And it's a very civilized atmosphere. As I mentioned earlier, the wait staff are very enthused, and they love to talk shop.
Yes.
You find that
Yes.
often?
Well, most of my staff have been with us since we opened 3.5 years ago. Most of them worked with either me or Scott prior to us opening the restaurant, and they wanted to come with us when we did. So they're just as locked into the success of the restaurant as we are.
Yeah.
They care about the success of the restaurant.
So, where are you and Scott from, and how did you get here to Moore County?
We lived a lot of places.
Okay.
When we met, we were living in Virginia, and we were going to college at the time. We'd both lived in different areas of the country prior to that, but our journey together started in Virginia. We moved to New York for him to go to culinary school.
Okay.
Where he
in the city?
It was in Hyde Park, New York. So it's
Okay.
about an hour and a half north of New York,
Right. Okay.
along the Hudson.
Okay.
And he is not a cold weather guy.
Okay.
So we moved south to South Carolina. We ended up in North Myrtle Beach and eventually Florence, South Carolina. We were in South Carolina for about 11 years,
Yeah.
and I had an opportunity to come to North Carolina, to this area, with my job. And so he quit his job and picked up and moved with me. And we've been here since 2005 and just love the area. I mean, there's no other place where we can go to the beach in a short amount of time, go to the mountains in a short amount of
Right,
time.
right.
There's a cultural diversity in this area that really is attractive to us. Schools are wonderful.
Right.
We felt like we had found our home.
Yeah.
And after working for others, we finally felt it was time to open our own restaurant.
Did I see something in the copy on the website that Scott was over at Penick?
Yes, he was there for 11 years, roughly. He was the executive chef there.
That's right. So he was there at the time when Penick seemed to win
Yes.
award after award
Yes.
after award.
Yes.
Is it the chamber that ran? There was a not a cook-off, but there were contests.
Like a taste of sort of contest. Yes.
And Penick, I remember, always scored so high.
Yes.
So he did more than. I mean, he was the executive chef there.
Correct.
Okay, and that's where he left and came and started Scott's Table.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, his philosophy when he was at Penick, along with his boss, Mike McKay,
Yeah.
decided that they wanted to deinstitutionalize food service and show people that retirement community living doesn't have to be
Right.
about the institutional food. So he made it more about the residents, and he elevated the dining services by bringing in culinary graduates and really challenging them to be their best.
So it's interesting you say that, because in my business, in the real estate business, we deal with people. We work with people of all different generations, and whenever we used to actually go to Penick and talk to potential residents who might be moving in, putting their home on the market, and settling in at Penick. And one of the things that always came up was the food. And the food. And it was a real strong, and it probably still is, a drawing card.
Yes.
But you didn't always associate a retirement community with the food as one of the lead-ins.
Right.
But it was well documented and easily substantiated,
Yes.
I think. So now the responsibility, and it's all on your shoulders and your husband's shoulders,
Right.
and the pressure to produce is, I mean, there's no one else to look at. There's no bureaucracy.
Right.
You just look to yourselves, right, and your staff,
Correct.
and your very
Yeah.
loyal staff. But it's what you wanted, and it's worth it no matter what the risk.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
So where does that come from? Because that's it's not the most conservative way to handle business. I mean, it's a risky business.
It is. Well, restaurants they should expect to fail.
Right.
Because typically more restaurants fail in the first year.
Right.
And then by year 3, you still have the potential for failure because you're still paying off all the opening debts.
Right.
So you shouldn't expect really until 5 years to be close to making money. And we're all in. If you ask my parents, I was never one to stop and wait and figure out where I'm going next. I just charged ahead.
Yeah.
I don't follow rules. I make them. My husband is very strong-willed. He is somebody that once it's in his head that something needs to be done, he's going to find a way.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Let's come back in the second set and talk about the food,
Okay.
because it's exceptional. And the experience at Scott's Table is also exceptional. You guys are open for lunch and dinners
Correct.
every day except Sunday.
Sunday, Mondays, or Tuesdays.
Oh, so you're closed those 3 days.
Yeah, on Tuesdays we go in and we work and prepare for the week.
Okay. We're speaking with Karen Margolis of Scott's Table. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. We're back with Karen Margolis of Scott's Table in Southern Pines. It's a unique restaurant. I always liken it to a place that's sort of a great secret or kind of flying under the radar, and I'm sure people who are big fans of the restaurant are saying, don't advertise so much. We don't want a lot of other people to come in and find out our secret. But that's kind of hard to keep under a lid. You call the restaurant a unique farm-to-table restaurant.
Yes.
Why?
Well, because we're family run.
Yeah.
We use as many local North Carolina ingredients as we can get. We have good relationships with our farmers and ranchers. They know us personally. We know them personally. We're invested in what we do. We've created a dining room where you can come dressed as you are.
Right.
Very casually.
I'll vouch for that.
Or you can dress up if you want and still be
comfortable.
Our food tends to be things that we're familiar with, but we present it in a way that is more elevated. So we call ourselves, we're not fancy, but our food is.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Do you call it American cuisine? How do you describe it?
I would say it's American cuisine because we have burgers, we have a steak, we have seafood. It's a good mixture of things we're all familiar with.
So I had the farm burger.
Yes.
For lunch. Calling it a burger it denigrates what it is. It's not a burger to me. It's a gourmet sandwich. The ingredients are great. It's an unusual combination. I don't think people will get anywhere else. And it's presented beautifully. It's very fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the dishes that you have that are maybe considered common fare are not so common.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, we believe that if you start with really good ingredients, you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And if you treat those ingredients with care and love, you come out with a great product.
Right. Do you grow any of your own, or do you just source directly from the best sources?
We don't really have any room on the property for any.
You don't.
We really don't.
Right.
So we have very carefully selected
Yeah.
The folks that are bringing us product. We try and make sure that there's no antibiotics, no hormones, no chemicals added to anything that we receive for our beef, for our vegetables, for our chicken, our pork. It's all items that we know exactly where it's coming from and how it's being handled.
Not processed in any way, or clean food. I don't know what the expression would be in your industry.
I guess you could say it's more organic.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have the added chemicals, the added hormones, anything that would take away from the natural qualities of the food. So it does have to be fresh.
So most people, I think they discount the added expense of sourcing foods. Because it is more costly.
It's probably about double.
Double, really?
Yeah.
So you're fighting the mentality of the fast food, the quick grab and go type, and so your clientele has to have an appreciation for the quality of the food as well.
Yes. Because our pricing, we're not making any money on it. Because it is starting off at a higher price point to us.
Right. So the margins, just, as a business model, margins in food are narrow. They're tight.
They're extremely tight.
Always.
Yeah.
And you have a liquor license or a...
We have a full bar.
Okay.
Yeah, we have liquor, beer, wine. We felt like we wanted to be able to have people come in and get something to drink if they wanted to with their meal, and so they can have the full experience.
Right. Is lunch a busier time for you than dinner?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
There are some days when lunch is overwhelmingly busy compared to dinner. And then there's some days like Fridays and Saturday nights where we are just extremely busy at night. Reservations are always recommended, though, because obviously our dining room has been reduced in size because of this whole epidemic, but it helps us to kind of pace everything and create a better dining experience for everybody.
I know that you have specials from day to day, but just looking at the menu, the last time I was in for dinner, I had the meatloaf.
Yes.
Well, meatloaf, most people think of meatloaf as comfort food, not something special or gourmet.
Right.
But it really was. And everything about the meal, it was an American fare, mashed potatoes, gravy, a great salad. I don't know what Brasstown beef is.
That's a North Carolina beef.
Okay.
The rancher is a veterinarian, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
He does not add any hormones or antibiotics to the animals. He knows the animal from birth to death.
Oh, my.
Everything that the animal consumes, he grows on his farm.
Okay. So your some of your main fare, your courses, crab cakes, the grilled flat iron steak, the meatloaf, shrimp and grits. I'm sure it's very popular.
Yes.
The grilled pork chop, wild mushroom ragu, excuse me. There you see, Dorothy. That's the kid from Brooklyn coming out of my voice. Ragu. Give me a break, Bill. But in addition to the main entrees that you have, you always seem to have one or two specials, either be a soup,
correct,
or an entree.
Well, because we do make everything from scratch, we're doing small batch cooking, and so we do have the opportunity to make changes as the season progresses, as things are available.
Right.
For example, our vegetables that we get from the local Moore County folks, it depends solely on what they are producing at the time.
So I'm a big fan of okra.
Okay.
If something happens and you come upon okra, do you then take it, and does Scott sit down and do you plan and it doesn't have to be okra, it can be something that is not normally on the menu. Do you try to come up and create different types of dishes based on what's available?
We talk with our farmers and we find out what they've got coming. They're very forthright in what they have and what they don't have, and when things are kind of, well, we might have another week before it's ready or whatever. And so Scott's always, he has a bag of tricks that is miles deep.
Right.
His collection of cookbooks, his collection of recipes that he's created, he could write several cookbooks himself.
And you have an open kitchen. You have a partially. Yes. Is it partially open?
It's
or is
partially open.
Partially
open.
open.
Yeah, you can see into our kitchen. You can see our cooks working.
Right. It's sort of like an art show.
Yes.
It is, and people come in and they want to be wooed, and visually they can scratch that itch, and I guess he's also mentoring a lot of people on the staff underneath him at the same time.
Well, one of our staff members is our oldest son,
Michael.
Michael, who has really stepped up. So he's learning a lot from his father. He has actually taken more of a leader role in the kitchen because of the fact that he's been given the opportunity for growth by his father.
Yeah.
Anybody that comes into the kitchen to work for Scott is going to be challenged. They're going to be driven by him to be their best. He has very high standards and expectations for people.
Yeah.
So it could be challenging for somebody that is new to the business, but he would love for them to learn and wants them to experience the kind of passion that he has for food.
Scott's Table is located on Southeast Broad Street in Southern Pines, and the downtown area of Southern Pines is starting to expand and stretch.
Yes, but we have parking.
You have superb parking, and it's very easy to get to, and as our population increases and people come and they're in the Pinehurst or Southern Pines area, it's very convenient. It's very easy to get to. I mean, you literally can park right outside the restaurant
Yes.
and have a very short walk in. Let's come back in the third set. We're speaking with Karen Margolis, and we're going to ask you why your husband is so shy, and let you be just the spokesperson 100%, right?
Yes, he does.
This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Scott's Table is the topic of our conversation today. It's a local, family-owned restaurant in Southern Pines, specializing in farm-to-table, organic foods, really good ingredients. It's got that Cheers feel to it. It's very local and very friendly, and a very enthusiastic waitstaff. And even in this time of COVID, breaking even at this time is sometimes a noble goal, where you just sort of you get through the season and you want to stay intact and get ready for the next season. And I'm sure that the challenge has been in front of you guys,
Yes.
Karen, for a while.
It
So
has.
you're mindful. It probably is teaching you to be austere and just very careful.
Well, when you don't have a big corporation to fall back on when
Right.
you're financially struggling, and it all rests on you, you are mindful of every penny you spend.
That's right. And every decision that you make has there's a direct correlation between outcome, and you just have to be very mindful of it.
Yes.
And you are. I've sensed that, retailers and restaurant owners had a much tougher go of it in 2020 and a lot of other industries and businesses. I mean, the golf business has been booming. The real estate
Right.
business has been very strong. And it's really funny. Certain businesses fall into a good lane and other businesses into a more challenging lane. But as a result of 2020, there's a brotherhood, there's a camaraderie or community
Right.
of restaurant owners. Can you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit?
Well, in our industry, there's always been a, hey, I'll help you because I know someday I might need your help. That's been kind of an unspoken thing. But this year in particular, it's really been more exposed to more public knowledge because of the simple fact that we don't have a choice but to work together to make us all get through this event. And so several of the locally owned restaurants got together at the beginning of this, and we kind of held a round table and came up with, some sort of a plan to try and work through this and communicate our need to legislatures. I think that we are in a community of people that we're in competition with each other,
Right.
but we still want each other to succeed.
Right.
And so having that focus to get through to the other side really helped provide us with some hope that we could do it,
Right.
because we know we have the emotional support when we need it.
The competitiveness that you talk about, but the desire to have everybody succeed is no different than the Moore County home builders, where they have an association here, and there are a lot of people that are bidding for the same jobs, and yet they're members of the same association where they're trying to uphold certain standards of ethics and quality and accountability. And I see that in the restaurant community. People who move here, Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Whispering Pines, Aberdeen, there's so many reasons to be here. And the restaurants, that subculture, has become a very strong part of the social fabric
Right.
of the area.
Well, I mean, everything we do, every good memory
Yeah,
in our lives,
yeah.
food is somehow associated with it.
Yeah, my memories were as a kid, I had to leave the table and not eat because
Right.
I was I was misbehaving. That's where it started. Yeah, but you're right. Meals are
Right. It's central.
That's right. And I get the impression that everyone that walks in is your friend,
They are.
and you want to make them feel so welcome. It's not a place to come and hide out, although that's perfectly fine too. But if they want to, it's almost interactive,
Yes.
a little bit, right?
Right. It is.
In a little bit of a way. And I've been very impressed by talking to some of the restaurant owners this year. And I like what they're doing, and they all want to be here, and it's not about the money.
No, it never has been.
It's not, is it?
No.
What is it about?
It's about caring for others.
Yeah.
I would say the restaurant industry has what I call a servant's heart. We
Yeah.
live to serve,
Right.
and make sure people are comfortable and happy. We're there in their times of celebration.
Right.
We're there in their times of grief.
Right.
We want to be a place where you feel safe
Yeah.
and that you know that you're cared for.
So there's a real maternal quality to being in the restaurant business.
There is.
Right.
Yes.
And I enjoy introducing people to it. And they come in and they, oh my gosh, I've seen this place, but I haven't been in. I'm so glad I came.
Right.
And hopefully.
Well, we don't look like much of anything.
No, it's
know.
So you mean the decor and
On the outside, you would never know we were there.
That's right. That's correct. The interior is attractive. It's not in any shape or form decadent. It's not over the top. It's simple but tasteful. And but you're right. The outdoor exterior is not something people are their radar is gonna just take them right up to
Right.
the front door. So word of mouth becomes very important.
Extremely.
Do you do special parties? Do you do catering?
We do. Obviously, during this time, we've slowed down that aspect of our facility, but we have done everything from weddings to just simple get-togethers, farewells, retirements. We've done events at the restaurant. We've done events at other spaces.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. And we do everything from soup to nuts.
Yeah. I know a lot of people this year, they changed their business model where
Yes.
they started to do or get set up for takeout.
Yes.
Is that something that, it's expensive to transitionalize to do
Oh,
that.
goodness gracious, yes.
People don't realize that it costs
Yes.
money you just don't say, okay, we're in the takeout business.
Right. And the cost of the containers
Right.
has gone up.
Right. Everything has
Everything
gone
has gone up.
up. Yeah.
But we were doing a little bit of takeout prior to this because our focus had been mostly on the indoor diners. But when we were forced into a complete only takeout model, we worked with some folks to get our website linked to be able to do online ordering.
Right.
So if you go to scottstable.com,
Right. Thank you for mentioning that.
you can get a lot of information about the restaurant, but also there's a link to be able to place an order for takeout, curbside, or delivery.
Right. We transitionalize into the fall season and we start getting cooler mornings and cooler nights, comfort food starts to kick
Right.
in.
Yes.
Between now and February. I don't know if you do this, but have you ever featured where you would prepare fresh soups, freeze them, have them available for pickup? You would probably do a killer
we've not
business.
frozen them,
Okay.
but we do have them available.
Okay.
Most of our soups sell out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The Hungarian mushroom soup, as you had mentioned
So
earlier,
You should call it Elizabeth Lacey soup.
it is the most requested soup.
Yeah. Oh, is
So it has a special
it?
week.
Is that right?
Yes, it has a special week every month. It's the first full week of every month,
Okay.
so that we're making it probably 4 times that particular week just to keep up with the demand.
Can it be frozen and
It can
reheated?
be.
Yeah.
It's obviously best when
Sure.
it's fresh made.
Sure.
But yes, it can be frozen, so you can pick it up and take it home and freeze it.
Yeah. I've always been always drawn to people that have soups that they can just go home and microwave or whatever and heat up. You probably hate to hear. What do you mean reheat by microwave? What's wrong with
Well,
you?
I'm not a great cook. My husband does all that.
Okay.
So microwave cooking, that's my thing.
Is that right?
I can do that, but I'm not Scott.
You also you have a kids menu.
We do.
You want to make sure that the kids get.
We are kid friendly.
You sure are. Cheeseburgers, cheese pizzas, grilled cheese sandwiches. That's what kids eat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Macaroni and cheese or whatever. One of the things we have not spoken about are your salads.
Yes.
And, I love salads. They are delicious.
Yes.
They're a combination of... I was always the person that didn't want to have hard things and soft things in a bowl.
Okay.
All right. Because if I'm eating something soft, I don't want to be cracking on nuts at the same. But your salads do have that, but they work.
Yeah.
They're really good. And you've
Like the
made me-
apple cheddar pecan salad.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And the salads are, and you can add, chicken, shrimp, steak to them, and really make them a full-blown meal.
Yes.
But they're like a dessert almost. They're really good.
Thank you.
And your dressings.
All
Homemade.
made. Yep.
Yeah,
In-house.
That's what I thought. I had the apple vinaigrette dressing the other day. It was outstanding.
Yeah.
So everything that you do is just a cut above. And
Thank you.
Yeah, and people, if they get a chance to get in, you're not doing a takeout business at this juncture, correct?
We are.
You are.
Yes.
So people could call and just come in.
Yes.
Okay. But I want to wish you, a lot of luck going forward. And you've been in business now 3.5 years.
Correct.
Where would you like to see yourself 2 years from now? Assuming that 2021 is a little bit more forgiving to most business owners than 2020 has been?
I think we want to be doing the same thing as far as like working in the restaurant. We love it so much, and I don't see us doing anything else.
Right.
We're not ready to retire by any means, and we still have a lot of energy. Scott still has a whole lot of ideas left in his bag of tricks, and I would love for us to be able to expand a little bit, maybe have more staff on hand, and be able to provide more services.
Yeah, and your husband is a terror in the kitchen, but
Yes.
kind of shy and not
Very shy,
So
painfully shy.
He's like the wizard behind the curtain in The Wizard
Yes.
of Oz. He will
Yes.
come out occasionally,
He will come out grudgingly.
begrudgingly, really.
But if he's requested by a table to come out, he will come out and talk to them. And once you get him started,
I would think he would
He
want to talk
doesn't-
about his
yeah.
craft.
he doesn't stop.
Well, that's okay. That's. I wish you guys all the luck, and I hope that. And you do gift certificates, by
We
the way.
do.
So for Christmas and
Well,
coming
it's a
up,
perfect present.
right? And it doesn't have to be used this year. It could be used next
It does
year.
not expire.
There you go. There you go. Scott's Table is a great addition to the restaurant community in southern Moore County. And if anyone is sitting there listening and saying, I've seen it, I've heard about it, I haven't been in, they should stop by.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in, Karen. And we'll see you there. And when Bob and Elizabeth come back into town from Pittsburgh, we'll make sure you have a lot of that Hungarian mushroom soup ready to go.
That would be perfect.
Thank you. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.